James Campbell, Mr. Diamonds, pivoted to copper. Yeah. Why don't we go and take the story back? I mean, you grew up in De Beers, Anglo, De Beers. Can we start there? Tell us your story. On social media, it feels like you wish you were still an explorer. You're out there in the bucky, under the trees. Who the hell is this James Campbell we're going to talk about today? So go there. Let's start there.
I came to South Africa in 1985, joined De Beers, or Anglo-American, because it was owned one by the other. And yes, spent 21 years in diamonds, working in early stage exploration, was involved with the Marsfontein diamond discovery, the Klipspringer diamond discovery, and the Oaks diamond discovery in the Limpopo province.
But involved as in you sat there in Oppenheimer's office and you got told about it?
No, I was physically on the ground doing the work. Okay, so when I say involved, I led the work in the field.
I knew that, but I wanted the audience to hear that.
And those are the heydays of diamond exploration in South Africa, particularly in the Limpopo province. And it was, I remember a time when we were looking at Marsfontein where we weren't just jigging kimberlitic indicators, we were recovering diamonds, which was phenomenal. And for those who are interested, Marsfontein had a 3.5-day payback, which I think is the fastest payback of any mine anywhere actually in the world. And yes, over a period of 20 years, I kind of went up the system. I became Nicky Oppenheimer's personal assistant. I worked in mergers and acquisitions and advanced exploration. And then in my early 40s, it was time to jump into the junior world. And for the past...
There's so many ways to have a midlife crisis. Can I list it? This is stupid. I mean, there's nothing logical about this. But okay, carry on. You had a midlife crisis. Yeah,
I did. And,
clearly.
And I'm now running my fifth junior, so I'm an absolute glutton for punishment. I ran African Diamonds, and Bernard was kind enough to host me last year with that. And for those who don't remember, that gave a 90 times return to the original shareholders. I ran a company called West Africa Diamonds, which didn't do so well, but did survive 3 buyouts and was eventually bought by Newfields out of Australia. But with the demise of the diamond market, that company collapsed, sadly. I ran Rockwell Diamonds for a while, but we can leave that maybe for the moment. And then I ran Botswana Diamonds, and with basically the structural change in the diamond industry, I put to the board, let's use our strengths in terms of our data, our ability to run juniors, our ability to raise capital, our ability to get work done in Botswana for something other than diamonds. And that's how we, I share the word, I don't like using the word pivot, and that's why we changed out of diamonds into copper and critical minerals, but we kept diamonds on the back burner because it may be worth something if the sale of De Beers goes well. It may not be if the sale of De Beers doesn't go well. So why sell something which might be worth something or hive it off if we don't know what the future will look like?
But now I want to jump to the other extreme, and you're obviously having another midlife crisis because you're now going to do a PhD. I mean, really, dude, I don't know. But, I mean, you sort of distill, and you want to do the PhD in the space of junior mining, entrepreneurial mining. And one of your posts in the last week or so, you distill 5 or 6 criteria that you think put successful juniors apart from others. Can we go there? Can we talk about your PhD, why, and what is it that you see that you think is worthy of a PhD in the space?
I think let me deal with the why, then I'll come on to those 5 points. The why. One of the things I noticed, having been in this junior world for a long time now, and some of the stats, and the lady from Anglo said them yesterday, is that 60% or more by value of commercial discoveries are made by juniors. So they are very, very important.
I actually thought it was higher. I heard that stat, and I've always thought it's most, but yeah.
It could be more, depending on who you believe. And then the next stat that comes out is 90% of juniors fail. But, and here's the but, is that if that junior is incubated using a technical term, and it can be any other, by one of 3 incubators around the world, or incubated by very, very specific people, I could only find less than 20 of them, that failure rate drops to less than 10%. And I thought, this is really interesting. There must be some kind of secret sauce out there. And I thought, well, what better way to leave a legacy, and this is my motivation for doing it, for the next generation of particularly African mining entrepreneurs to de-risk what they are doing when they go into this world, rather than saying, hell, I need money, I need better regulations, I need this, that, and the other. And where I am in the process now, which is really very, very interesting, is I'm halfway through, so I haven't started, halfway through. I've done my literature review, and I've had the huge privilege of being able to interview my chairman, who spoke here, a 3-hour interview, went to 60 pages.
And I give him 10 minutes, dude. Can I help you? I mean, I give him 10 minutes. I mean, 3 hours.
And last night I interviewed Ron Thiessen from Hunter Dickinson Group. And Hunter Dickinson and the 162 Group are 2 of the probably most successful junior incubators in the world. 162 Group, John has listed 15 companies, 3 of which have been successful. I've run all of his diamond companies, and now his copper company. Hunter Dickinson has a fantastic track record in discovery, in acquisition, and were very involved in South Africa 20, 30 years ago. And I've interviewed some wonderful Canadian entrepreneurs, British entrepreneurs, and they're all saying the same thing, which is the 5 points I published on LinkedIn the other day. Firstly, these people have a very strong grasp of the asset, the people, and the capital markets environment. That's the first thing. Second thing, they rely a lot on trust, credibility, and have big, big skin in the game. Thirdly, they understand cycles of commodities as far as one can, but importantly, allied to that, they have an exit strategy too as well. Fourthly, and this is where my little piece comes in, is one of the reasons why they are serially successful is they have a model or a framework or a platform with which to actually give birth to a junior and kind of look after it until it's in production or a successful exit with a sale. And then finally, if you look at some of the personal characteristics, 3 of them, they're very, very passionate, though that goes across all 3 of them. They are very pragmatic, and they're incredibly tenacious and persistent. And those 5 characteristics simply actually explain the 5 people I've interviewed so far. And I imagine if I look at the others who I know, which is wonderful, and I'm so blessed to actually get such deep information from them, will carry on. And hopefully the net result of this will be like a framework. So if I kind of use an analogy of a cake, it'll be like, what are the different ingredients and how must you bake it to get a good cake? Doesn't necessarily mean you'll make a good cake, but it'll actually help the next generation of African mining entrepreneurs develop their projects with a little less risk, I hope.
And is that a realistic expectation? So if I have a fantastic ore body, I think it's got potential, I go to these people, are they going to make me successful? Are they going to be successful with me? Or are they going to be successful at my expense? I mean, because it all comes to what you bring and what they bring, and how do they slice and dice this cake that they bake?
I think it's not just that, Bernard. I think if you look at the personal characteristics of these people in terms of how they manage things, and I think that sometimes that is glossed over because people think it's all about money. No, it's not always just about money. And yes, money is very, very important, and the ability to find that seed capital is important. But that tenacity, as we know in the junior space, Tim, how long? 7 years working on your project in Angola. It takes tenacity at the same time. A model for running a junior. Like, we absolutely loathe overhead. We don't do overhead. Now, we were able to run Botswana Diamonds with no money for 18 months. No, so you have a home office, you have an old car, you keep going. It's all these little bits. And also, Bernard, where we almost started the conversation, was the ability to change if circumstances allow, and change quickly and embrace your strengths, which you should know.
Yeah, you're positioning this pivot of yours. We'll come back to that. So when you walk into this venue, they now make us walk all the way around. The cars you see in the car park convinces you these are passionate juniors with no overheads. No.
I park mine at the very end of the car park.
Yeah, but that's because you're leaking oil. They ask you to park it. No, sometimes we only hear what we want to hear. I'm making absolutely sure that what at least you convey gets heard. People can then ignore it. But I mean, we have created a generation of mineral rights flippers.
Yes.
The coal industry, lots of millionaires who never knew where the mineral right was, never saw it, never drilled it, and made money. And I mean, in the ecosystem, all these things have got a place. But what you talk about is actual juniors who either discover or build and then on-sell. I mean, because in the junior space, that is the exit strategy. Is somebody else takes you over, typically?
Not always, Bernard. And I often say to people that when we start exploration in an area, we do it with a view to mining. Now, the likelihood of us getting through to mining is not very likely. You know, in the mining world, it's like the natural world, that you have juniors at the bottom of the kind of the totem pole, a mid-tier or something, or a larger junior will gobble you up, and then a larger corporate will gobble you up. And that's just the way it works. So if we discover, for example, copper in our first drill holes and we get repeatable results, 90% certainty will be bought out. As much as we don't want to be, you have to put that to your shareholders, and it goes back to having a very clear exit strategy. We would love to have been, for example, on AK6 or Karowe. We would love to have been part of the mining. We'd planned it that way. We did the feasibility study. We paid for that, but it wasn't to be.
And it does go then, James, to the point of, and therefore that work you do, the early work, the no overheads, no frills, you still have to do it at the right level of professionalism. Your competent person's report needs to speak into the major coming to buy you. I mean, you know, you have to be as professional as the big guys. You know, you can't
actually, Bernard,
cheap and nasty.
I think the corollary of that applies. I think you need to be more professional. You know, with the Karowe study, for example, I found the best mining engineer, the best engineer, the best diamond geologist, and it was Alex van Sale, not myself, to actually run the team, and run by a team who've probably built 20 diamond mines between them. So that when we go to the bank, because we don't have the corporate reputation of someone like an Anglo or a De Beers, you know, we're a small company, and although we've been successful before, we have to be able to really defend our work, probably better than standing behind a name. So I actually think it's more important for a junior to use the best technical, legal, financial expertise you can actually get.
And you could see when Richard presented Westwärts, you could see the emphasis on team. Because when you go public and you go raise other people's money in Australia for a South African mine, shareholders want to take comfort in people have done it before. No? These are guys who know what they do. No? I can see the questions are going to take you to some uncomfortable places. And
are these your questions, Bernard?
No, not yet. Mine's coming as well. Listen, I mean, who knows where the question comes from? You know, anonymous could be anybody. So we'll go to some of the things that, I mean, in a career, I always say it's a bit like playing cricket. Of course, you go out for ducks as well. And if you make hundreds, and then you've got a batting average. But we'll evaluate a few of your perceived failures and less successful things. Can we explore Botswana diamonds, which is no longer Botswana diamonds? So internally, you can make a case to your directors. What was the government's role in this? How did you take the government along? Did you need to take them along, or did you have the right permits in place for this change in strategy?
Bernard, very, very good question.
It came from somebody.
Oh, okay.
Anonymous.
From somebody. Now, if I look at the core IP that Botswana Diamonds had before we changed, we had the second largest database in Botswana. De Beers has the largest. So we had our second largest private database, but the government data in Botswana is freely available, and you have quarterly geological reports going back decades of previous explorers. Second thing, we have the ability to get things done in Botswana, and thirdly, we have strong relationships. And when we went to speak to the regulators in Botswana, they fully embraced our change away from diamonds into critical minerals because it fully supported their diversification strategy too as well. So we applied for 8 licenses, 7,000 square kilometers of ground. It took a little while, but I think 8 months or thereabouts to get. And it was chiefly because we didn't have the balance sheet to actually support it, but we were able to convince the regulator that, no, we've been operating as listed companies for 20 years in Botswana, and we've spent something like 2 billion, between 2 billion pula or rands in this region on exploration. So they gave it to us. And now we're in discussion, interestingly, in that we would like to keep our diamond licenses because we don't know what's going to happen with the sale of De Beers, because we think there may be value in it. But we don't want to spend money on it, but we want to double our expenditure on our critical minerals licenses so we can bring drilling forward from year 4 to year 2. And that's a discussion I'm actually having with the regulator now, and so far so good.
So tomorrow's newspaper headlines, it's going to be somewhere, at least Mining MX is going to say, James Campbell says diamond industry is dead.
I didn't say that,
Yes,
Bernard.
you did, verbatim. I'm making you say it. I'm paraphrasing it for David to say now. Obviously, the trends have been what they are, and the De Beers sale is an overhang. So just dwell a little bit more. So what would be a favorable outcome? What would make you say, I'm glad I hang on to my diamond rights? What do you want to happen at De Beers, in the sale of De Beers?
What I'd like to have as a favourable outcome is a clean, sensible sale to a well-funded group who are very strong on marketing and who have very good relationships across the region. Because one of the things which has been missing to a large extent over the last 10 years or so is very strong marketing. I think James Allen gave a presentation at last year's African Mining Summit where he said 22 years ago De Beers was worth $12 billion, and they were spending about $240 million a year on marketing. I think the book value today, from memory, is 4. It probably being sold for half that. I have no insight, I don't know. But the marketing number is not published. So I suspect in money of today it's less than 50. So if you don't market a luxury good, then we all know that. Doesn't matter whether it's handbags or whether it's cars or something, how critical it happens to be. And one of the buyers does happen to have a very strong marketing background, has great relationships across the region, and I hope has good access to finance. And in my view, if that gentleman and his consortium win the bid, then I think there will be a turnaround of the diamond industry, but it won't go back to what it was. It'll go back to being, it'll go to being a profitable but smaller industry, where those producers which have larger diamonds, colored diamonds, which basically sell into a higher net worth value market, will survive. Those who sell lower quality diamonds and smaller diamonds, which have chiefly been replaced by lab-grown diamonds, will struggle.
And in that favorable scenario, you ain't going back into diamond mining, but you've got diamond assets that you may be able to dispose of. Am I reading your strategy?
Exactly, Bernard. If I go back and I look at our African diamonds when we listed it, it had assets, gold and diamond assets in West Africa, diamond assets in Botswana. The diamond assets in Botswana became Karowe Mine, so we basically split off the gold and diamond assets in West Africa and created a company called West Africa Diamonds. So the board hasn't yet to decide about whether we split it off, whether we do it ourselves, whether we sell it, but there will be lots of lovely options to have if the diamond market does improve.
So you then use your data and or ability to interpret data, I suspect, to uh, ask for new permits. I mean, surely it's a bit different 40 years later. I mean, yes, you can still go in your bucky and sit under the tree, but how much of that data rework can you do, like the Cobalts of the world with AI? I mean, just what would you do differently now than 40 years ago?
It's fundamentally different, Bernard, and maybe Glenn will talk about it in the next panel. We're partnered with a group called Planetary AI out of Scotland, and what their unique capability is they have 57 different geological models where they have detailed the geophysics, the geochemistry, the hyperspectral scanning, satellite imagery in a huge amount of detail. So on the one hand, you've got these 57 geological models. On the other hand, you've got your terabytes of data. And the machine, or the AI, then looks for these models in the data, and it gives you scores out of 10. And then once you get a score of, let's say, more than 6 out of 10, you start to have a look at it, seeing what it's missing. You start applying experience and knowledge and intuition, see what you need to gain. And by doing this, we were able to firstly identify the northwest part of Botswana as being the link between the northern Namibia and Zambian copper belts. Many people just drew straight lines. There's no such thing as a straight line in geology. It actually follows the collision zone right through northwest Botswana. That's why we found it. And then secondly, we want to be able to get to drilling targets within a year. And here's the interesting thing, Bernard, the importance of filing quarterly geological reports that we found from diamond explorers in the area where the geological log just says no kimberlite. Now, in my previous world, that's great, but in today's world, they show photographs with sulfides in it. That becomes enormously exciting. So by using this approach, we're able to kind of short-circuit the targeting and then short-circuit the ability to get on the ground to do very detailed geophysics and geochemistry before drilling. But it's not a ChatGPT or Claude. The IP of us is the data. The IP of Planetary AI are these very, very detailed geological models, which they have on license from the Geological Survey of the UK.
So the data, you make it sound fantastic, but you also say De Beers owns most of the diamond data, you own the second most, and then you talk about the quarterly reports that is freely available. So how does this play out in Botswana? I know it's different to South Africa. So when do you relinquish your proprietary data to the government of Botswana?
Well, when you have a prospecting license in Botswana, you have to file quarterly reports.
So they have it even whilst you still think it's your
That's
proprietary?
correct, yes. And a lot of the times we found that, when there isn't a geological log, a 600-meter core hole, a description of no kimberlite, but some photographs and things like that. So if you don't file those quarterly reports, then you lose your license. And they have also, and I think Charles Siwawa said this yesterday morning, they have also flown the country with airborne magnetics, and that's enormously helpful too as well. But the data, it's the interpreted reports which end up with the government, not necessarily the data.
Your previous company had a return of 90% for original shareholders?
90 times, not 90%.
Yeah. I'm reading what is in front of me, but you did say 90 times. What returns are you offering now? let's put a warning 100. Come on, I mean you can do better. Have you embraced AI as part of your exploration strategy? I think we touched on that. Would Botswana invest in sovereign AI, or is it happy for Botswana data to be processed by others? This goes back to data. And what should the state do and what should the private players do? So what is Botswana's approach, you think? They also have this data. Can they bring AI to this?
Yes, they can. But the playing field is that the government data is freely available to anybody. We have just under 100,000 square kilometers of private data, which is IP.
But they also have it because you filed your reports.
Well, this is actually largely acquired from other people.
But they had to file it or not. This is what I'm trying to understand.
Technically.
Okay.
Technically.
I'm not going to push harder because this is where it gets
technically,
great.
but it's an interesting point.
Yeah.
And then the third piece of IP is that there are lots of different service providers who will sell you an AI exploration program. And if you can't explain it to a mining engineer or an accountant how it works, and I hope I've been able to adequately explain how this one works, then you shouldn't be doing it. It's not a black box like a ChatGPT or a Claude. We call it a glass box because everything is visible and you can interrogate it. And the kind of the really good thing about this, it absorbs your learning because you say, well, it should be at the intersection of two faults, but it isn't. Why? And you study, it starts to learn, deposits like these should be at the intersection between two faults. So it's a combination of all of those things.
These are all questions from the audience. I would never put these harsh questions to you at all. So, we don't have to talk about Botswana because the Fraser Index have spoken. The 1,000 Canadians who decide what is investable says in Botswana is very investable. Do you agree with that? But governments change and things change. Have you found it a good jurisdiction? It doesn't matter that the government has changed, or has it impacted on you? Will it impact on you?
Botswana is a very good jurisdiction. I must add that, and I made a comment on it yesterday, Namibia is also a super jurisdiction. Zambia is also a super jurisdiction as well in terms of doing work. Things, you can go and talk to the regulator. You can put a difference in policy, like I've mentioned earlier, about putting our KX-36 drilling on the back burner, and they'll listen and they're attentive to it. And I think what helps is, although Botswana is a very large country, it is a small country too at the same time with a smaller number of people. And because what we're doing is entirely in alignment with where the government's diversification is going, it makes things a lot simpler. And I think the other thing, and you can't beat about the bush on this one, is because of their history, they welcome anybody who obviously obeys the laws of the country, but also invests and help grow the country. So that is really, really helpful. So it doesn't matter where you come from or who you are, as long as you fully embrace the Botswana and what they do, then you're welcome.
Every now and again, somebody hands me their PhD dissertation, and I read the summary and I think, God, I'm not going to get through this. So, distill for us. Let's not get your PhD dissertation in 3 years. Distill for this audience the one lesson that you want to leave them with. The thing you're going to prove by doing your dissertation. But what is the one key lesson for perhaps a wannabe junior? Somebody who wants to be in that space.
I've given 5, and now you're asking for 1.
Yes. I'm not going to read 5.
Okay, that's fine.
The 5's difficult. I'm a miner.
I think...
What's the key thing?
Persistence. If you want what out of those 5 I mentioned earlier, persistence is the hallmark of successful junior mining entrepreneurs. They just don't give up. I think that... a very, very well-known saying came out of the Hunter Dickinson last night, where he was quoting Friedland about why he's been so successful in certain areas. He said, yes, that was an overnight success, but it took 20 years.
Yeah.
And I think that, if I have one thing, Bernard, that would be the one thing.
And for this audience, some of us, can we translate it as vastbyt, persistence?
Yeah.
You have to stick it out.
Yeah.
James, thank you. Thank you very much. Good luck with the PhD. Remember to write that one page for me as well, the front page, just the summary.
I'm going to ask somebody very clever who can write books to actually write a book about it. Yeah.
Thank you very much for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.